Mein Bruder.
My Buddha, what's up?
Back once again, like we never left.
Kind of like we left because we're reversed.
Yeah, we switched around, yeah. We're the mirrors of each other now.
Yeah, man.
Dude, what did you want to talk about?
You told me you have a manifestation technique that's been new and that you've been practicing.
I did a course.
You did a course,
well,
yes.
it wasn't a course. It was more of a webinar. Dude, I follow this girl. Her name, I'll give her a shout out because she rips. M on the brain. Can't even remember how I came across her page, but she was a neuroscience graduate, or whatever you want to call it. I think she actually left her PhD, but she's got a bunch of degrees in whatever, in that area, the brain. And I just came across something that she posted once, like a couple of days ago, saying, doing a neuroscience of manifestation webinar. The word manifest has always gotten a bit of a triggering response in me and in my friends, I guess, because it's gotten to be one of those words that gets used a lot and isn't necessarily understood of what it actually is.
Yeah, I was always making fun of people.
Yeah. So I wanted to understand what the science behind that word was. Super interesting. She kind of gave her story of where she comes from and things that she's kind of gone through in terms of believing in herself, and how she's used the science of how the brain works in order to manifest the life that she is now experiencing. And there's a lot of familiarities and a lot of parallels to the kind of things that we talk about with believing in yourself, overcoming your fears, and also leaning into spirituality as well, which I thought was very interesting and a very poignant point to have faith in your own abilities, to have faith in something greater than you, whether that's the higher self, whether that's, again, this reminds me of what we've been talking about in previous episodes of facing your demons, so to speak. And she gave a couple of, she gave like a 3-step process to kind of identifying what the things are that are holding you back, identifying what you believe in, how to practice certain things like gratitude being a very important one. I've noticed that when in terms of she touches on the Kybalion, in terms of the universe being mental, that this is the illusion and that we have to kind of disillusion ourselves from our programming in order to reprogram the life that we desire. And she gave some practical kind of ways to do that. I mean, she's obviously also selling her course at the end of it to level up and be a part of the community. But there were so many things in the webinar that I was noting down that I felt would be helpful for me, and for us, and for everybody else. Yeah, I mean, without my notes in front of me, I'm not going to be able to remember all of what she said, but there was just so much gold in there.
Wow.
And to be able to practically apply things that have scientific basis to them, I thought it was incredibly interesting. And let's focus on gratitude for one. The very first thing that I can do each day, and this is like when Oski was saying about becoming as aware as possible first thing in the morning, as soon as you wake up. So journaling has helped me loads to take note of my thoughts and to actually put them down onto paper in order, A, that I can process them, B, that I can be aware of them, and then to basically direct myself into being thankful for something, being thankful for waking up, being thankful for having a roof over my head, being thankful for being able to get water out of my fridge. Like these standard things which after a certain amount of time we can take for granted. So the practice of gratitude has become something that then directs a lot of my other thoughts. So like I would normally go to the gym first thing in the morning, which is part of my kind of approaching the hard thing. You know, I know I want to go to the gym and I want to be in shape, but also there's not so much anymore. It's now more of a routine, but there was a sense of resistance to that, of like, but it's comfy, it's like warm, and but there's a Marcus Aurelius quote that I'm thinking of from Meditations about, you know, we're not made to stay huddled under the covers though. Like we're meant for more than that.
Yeah.
So get out of bed and go do the hard thing, or spend some time each morning and note down things that you're grateful for. Just that practice alone can then reframe the way that I view general things across my day. I have noticed that literally if I don't do that practice, and this is another thing that helps me similar to meditation, if I allow my emotions to take control of my day rather than me being in control of my emotions, then I'm going to have a very different day than if I have addressed them in the morning and realized, you know, this is how I'm feeling. Okay, I realize that that's just a feeling, and that I can either accept that, allow it, process it, or move it on if it doesn't serve me. So, long story short, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for opportunities. I'm grateful to be able to notice that about myself, and that I'm constantly assessing where I am and what's going on, but also to then turn that back and be like, yeah, but you're here and you're breathing and you're alive and you've got this, that, and the other, and you've got great friends. Like I write down 5 things a day in my little journal. Mm-hmm. Shout out, Jesse. And that, I don't know, I guess what I'm saying really is writing down my thoughts really helps me kind of stay on track with stuff.
You do that every day?
I do at the moment, yeah. Wow. I had a period during the year, like I got this accountability journal and I spent probably the first part of the year writing down in it every morning and every evening. And it's more than just what I'm grateful for. There's affirmations that I add in there. There's like, what do I want to achieve today? So like I'm putting down things like that are goals for me, thoughts and reflections, and the checking in with myself in the morning and in the evening is super valuable to me. Then there's the summer that comes along, and there's a large gap in the book where I stopped writing in, I guess, May, and then there's like one entry in June, and then there's like a couple of missed months, but I'm back on it again now. And I just noticed there's a marked difference when I'm putting pen to paper every day. Mm-hmm. Seriously, like huge difference in my overall general mood, my ability to deal with things that are going on in my life, how I can feel stable. You know, my moods are not like this. They're just like that. There's more flow to my life. Wow. Do you journal?
No. I have a hard time disciplining myself to write stuff down.
I gave you one of these journals, didn't I?
You did. And I think it comes from the way I went through the schooling system and then university. I kind of went through school listening to the professors and looking at the slides, and then writing my exams essentially based on the stuff that I listened to in class and some of the stuff that I read on the slides. I rarely took notes. I think part of that was just laziness. I didn't feel like taking notes. Like whatever he's saying and whatever is on the slide, if I just think about that and make sense of it, then I can go and do the exam. And it's still the same thing. Like every time I read a book or I listen to a book or I listen to a podcast, I don't write it down. I just think what's important should be in my head, and that's it. So obviously you're going to be limited. You're going to absorb, if you're good with that, you're going to absorb most of that stuff, but some of the stuff you'd benefit from writing it down. So what I do now is I press voice record on my phone and I just speak it into it. I enjoy that more.
Mm.
So and then I transcribe it and then I save it. So that's how I do it. But
So you are journaling then? You're just
to some
doing it.
extent.
You're just doing it with technology.
Yeah. And honestly, one of the things that I noticed is, for example, every time I prepared for a lecture or a presentation when I was a student, it's so crazy when you have the story in your head and you've repeated the story from beginning to end in your head. And then the moment you start practicing it by speaking the actual words, so that in that moment you will start hearing your voice because your voice is externalized and your audio system is going to hear what you're saying. You catch yourself filling in gaps that you weren't able to observe until you've actually spoken it out. It's a crazy thing. It's almost like when you're speaking it from within, everything seems coherent. The moment you speak it out, you become an observer to a voice. You essentially divide one voice into voice and observer, which seems to not be possible if you only keep it within. And then you catch yourself, it's like, oh, damn, I'm glad I did this because, no, that didn't make sense. It made sense when I was speaking to myself. But it's almost becomes, you have almost like a judge to what you speak the moment you speak it. But it's not available. That judge is not available when you keep it within. So I wonder if some of that stuff that you're doing, the writing it out, or like for me speaking it out, and the processing through that is almost making like something logically coherent that otherwise kind of just rests within but isn't formalized. You almost formalize some of that stuff. And I've observed that actually gives me a lot of benefit, but I don't do it all the time. I could be better with that.
I think there's benefit to different formats of that as well. Because like you say, speaking it out is one thing. Writing it down is another. Speaking it out, have you ever said something and then gone, why did I say that?
Yeah, of course.
And then it's not made sense, or you've realized during the process of saying it out that you did not have it right.
Yeah, almost like a judge, almost like an audience that is listening to you that would catch that mistake, but you weren't catching it until you spoke it out. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. And I think writing it, there's a process of having to be not necessarily concise, but there's almost like a filtering process that to make sure that it becomes a sentence, and then that sentence becomes a paragraph, right. And then that you kind of structure it out in a way that's more cohesive.
Yes.
Whereas when you're talking, it's kind of on the fly.
That's right.
So in order to be able to get your understanding of something just right, you'd have to say it a bunch of times until you'd, said it, re-said it, kind of taken some bits out, shortened it, made it more compact, made it more succinct. But the writing process seems to be, I guess you would do the same with writing too. Look, if you were a writer, you would go over what you'd written and you would make it more, whatever the word is, depending on what you're talking about. But you would be able to go back over it and then you'd reread it. And this is, I'm sure, when you write essays or when you've done various things from university, that you would have read and reread what you are writing in order to make sure you're getting your point across and that you're constructing the most convincing argument for whatever it is that you're presenting.
Yes. Which is so crazy because in your head, everything makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because experience and thoughts and stories, they precede speech. So you kind of know within, but then being able to convey that meaning via a more limited tool, which is speech and words.
Yeah.
That's where the art comes in. That's why some people are so good, like Jordan Peterson, the way he speaks. The best at it, right? Because he's able to funnel his thoughts and express them in words. Again, words being just a subset of everything that's going on in his head, and represent the picture within better than anyone else. That's why he's so good at what he does. And that's why, for example, when we are in the process of publishing papers, when we write a research article, if you do that, you write a draft. dude, and then you freaking edit it and edit. You send it out to co-authors if you have any. Otherwise, you send it out to colleagues. They read it, they edit it, change this first, put this part of the story here. That makes more sense. Change the wording, the sentence here, because, you know, everything you're trying to do is make it as logically cohesive as you could possibly make it, and then they redo it. And to a certain degree, that's good. And then at some point, you're actually biting your own tail. It becomes too much, especially in the academic field. You can overdo it because everyone is going to have a different perspective on it, and you start rewriting it. Same thing with you. You're going to read it, edit it, and at some point, it's like you have to kind of say, yeah, it's good the way it is, and stop. But yeah, that's the process, man. It's like you're trimming down the fat.
Yeah.
Taking that off, making sure with the least amount of words, as precisely as possible, you convey the most information.
There's a word for that, isn't there?
Parsimonious.
Yeah, I love that word.
Yeah, parsimonious. Yeah, you try to use as minimal input to... we use it in statistics. Like, you use the minimum amount of variables to predict a statistical outcome. So in a model, you can throw in as many predictive variables as you want. But the more variables you throw in, the less power you have. So you want to keep the model as small as possible, because there's always a small set of variables that predict the grandest variation of the outcome. And so you keep the model small but predictive, like what needs to be there and what can be thrown out. Yeah, you can put in another variable, but it only predicts 0.1% of the additional variance. So you leave that out. Same with words, right? Can you keep it as precise as possible and convey your information? Because yes, you can add words and maybe they explain a little bit more, but it's kind of a law of diminishing return. So
this is because I love mathematics. I love equations. I'm not very good with equations, not anymore. And it's not like I'm studying maths anymore. But there's there's poetry even in being able to get a grand idea into such a small, or into such a, like, E equals MC squared. Like, that is, and it takes a lifetime to get to a point where you can be able to convey that grand of a message into such a small amount of symbols.
Yes. And you also eliminate a big degree of misunderstanding amongst the people that read that science or that you communicate that science with, because it's different to words. Words always have a subjective interpretation. But if you decide on presenting something based on mathematics, the language of mathematics doesn't allow a lot of room for interpretation.
Yeah.
So if something is that, it is that. It's accepted as an axiom, as a fundamental truth. Whereas when I speak to you in words, that word triggers within you different experiences and different interpretations and different perspectives. So the same word to you is going to mean something slightly different than it means to me. So then add that into a sentence. Now that sentence is going to have even more variance between you and me. Add that into a paragraph, add that into a page, add that into a book, and then add that to the meaning that you extracted that. So within each level, you're going to have discrepancy. But in mathematics, it's a language that everyone universally understands and agrees on with less deviation.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
That's the absolute beauty of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
My niece is studying the origins of language in Germany, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so she's going back into, cavemen times and where language came from and the sounds that we create. And obviously we know that across different countries there's different words that are being used to express different things. There's beauty in certain languages in terms of how simple they are. And even, the English language is probably the most expansive, or at least one of the most expansive languages, in terms of we have so many different words for the same thing, and there's constantly new additions of words being added every year to the Oxford Dictionary and the Cambridge Dictionary and whatever else.
Yeah.
And words' meanings change over time.
Right.
It's kind of hard to keep up a lot of the time unless you're like, I even texted my nephew the other day and was like, what's the lingo in the UK these days?
What is it?
He hasn't replied yet. But like, I want to know because I feel like
bro, they ghost you.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
They leave you in red. Man.
That is true, man. Like I find myself. People say to me, "Oh, you've kept your English accent." So I've lived in the States now for 11 years, 12 years, and I still have my English accent, thankfully.
Thank God, man.
But I notice that I say certain Americanisms, like "dude," like "dope." And I kind of want to shake
slaps.
that. I don't mind slaps. I don't mind rips either. That's one of my favorite things to say. That
Yeah.
rips. Life rips.
It rips.
It does rip.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let it tear you.
Yeah.
I've got that in my apartment on a little. What's the thing that if you were talking of judges, the thing that they hit.
That hammer? Whatever it is?
Whatever that's called. It's got a particular name.
Yeah.
But back in 2021, when life was definitely not ripping, or at least it felt like it wasn't ripping at that time because it was closed down and we were not allowed to be close to each other and all this kind of stuff. I bought a custom thing to remind myself. It's still in my still got it at home. It says, "Life rips, don't let it tear you." A little conscious reminder for me to always try and find the silver lining in things, even though sometimes I struggle to find that, or even though, life be lifing sometimes.
Yeah. And I think once you realize that life rips, but you can also rip life,
Dude, you're in a good spot.
good spot, man. Yeah. I think if everything goes well, you're just going with the flow, man. You just ride that wave. Everything is well. Things happen. Boom, boom, boom. Everything falls into place. Beautiful. But when it's not the case, then it's how do you create that picture within you when all physical evidence is saying otherwise?
Yeah.
That's why, what you were saying with the manifestation course, that she's a neuroscientist.
Mm-hmm.
So she's into quantifying things, but she also says that, what's going on within is going to manifest on the outside. And
Facts.
well, and also the reason that I think I was always kind of smiling at that term, I didn't really take it serious, it's because it's been used so much for kind of like woo-woo type of stuff. Oh, I manifested this, it appeared. And also, I was always thinking that manifestation is kind of like you sit somewhere and you think of something and you just think of it until it appears, right? Which is actually not how it works.
You just think it into existence.
Yeah. You do to some extent, but it's actually not exactly how it works. But realizing that actually so manifestation, if I got it right, I read the definition a long time ago, it's something like bringing into the physical plane, into the visible and touchable plane, that which is invisible. That's manifestation. And the fact that we are actually doing that 24/7, it's not a proactive thing to do. You're not sitting in a room manifesting. You can, but even if you don't do it, everyone is manifesting all the time. What it essentially means that the things that are going on within you are going to be crystallized outside.
Mm-hmm.
The thoughts you have, the emotions you have, the beliefs you have, you're going to manifest them on the outside as long as you persist in them over time. That's why the things you have around you are the things that you believe to be inside, as within, so without. It's in every religious text too, right? It's sort of like, no matter what the evidence is on the outside, if you can just hold on to the faith, to the invisible, it's going to crystallize on the outside. And now that I've looked a little bit more into the science is pretty precise about the fact that what you hold within is going to affect real life outcomes. And they've done that across different fields. They've done that in psychology, they've done that in neuroscience, they've done that in organizational behavior. And for example, there is the work by a lady called Carol Dweck. Have you heard of her? She's a psychologist, and she's worked on growth versus...
Did she do the growth mindset?
Growth mindset.
Yeah, I've got that book. Yeah. I've not read it yet.
Yeah, so growth mindset is essentially the degree to which you believe that knowledge, skills, abilities are learnable and malleable versus being fixed. You're born with it and you can't change them. And so she's shown that the more you believe that these things are malleable, and then you can acquire knowledge, that it's not fixed, it's not just something that's given to you and you're stuck, the more you're going to improve your life outcomes, your professional life, your educational scores, the amount of money you can earn. And so that's clear evidence to the beliefs that you hold about your own abilities are directly going to affect your outcomes.
Yeah.
And that's quantifiable, which is what I like. They've also shown in neuroscience research via fMRIs, they scan your brain, and they've shown that via meditation over time, you can actually do something called neuroplasticity.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, are you aware of that?
I'm familiar, yeah.
Yeah. So, they've shown that essentially you can start recreating new pathways within yourself that really change the way you think and who you are as well, because it affects your subconscious as well. And, there's a bunch of studies. There's another one and I noticed from the strategy field, Bandura's self-efficacy theory, which predicts on the job, it's organizational research, and it predicts on the job that the extent to which you believe in your abilities is going to positively affect your professional performance on the job. And so they've done based on that research, bunch of interventions on the organizational level where they change your belief about your abilities, and by doing so, tweak your performance within the firm.
Give me some more information on that. How do I, sure, not specifically, but what kind of things are they doing?
So first of all, it's making you aware of that.
Right.
That the way you view your skills is going to affect your performance. So if you know that's the case, you're way more malleable when it comes to that. You're going to be way less stubborn in changing your beliefs. And then the other things are different level of intervention. So typically how these studies are done, they do something called they induce a certain scenario within you. So they take two groups, and then one group reads an essay, for example, on the growth mindset topic. You read the essay, and that essay tells you, well, as we know now, science is showing you that what you believe about your skills, and knowing that your skills are actually malleable and not fixed and based on training and based on different techniques, you can change your abilities in that field. You can change your life outcomes. And then the other group gets a text that says, well, you're either born with intelligence or you're not born with intelligence. You're either born with abilities or you're not born with abilities. And then they measure your outcomes afterwards. And
what do they like? When you say measure the outcomes,
they measure for example, your score on a certain task.
Okay.
So for example, the way they do it over time is they track students and their grades at the end of the semester. So based on an induction, whether I tell my students that they can acquire skills versus tell them that the mindset is fixed, they're more likely to have higher scores in the course if they believe that their skills are malleable versus when they think that their skills are fixed. Okay. So depending on what you believe about your own abilities, you're going to manifest different outcomes in your life. And so the stuff that we talk about manifestation is essentially the same thing. It's the beliefs you hold about yourself are going to dictate what's happening in your life, because what you believe about yourself is going to dictate your perception of the real life events. And so the way you interpret the real life events is going to be based on your belief system. That goes back to the narrative that I want to be right about my beliefs. That's why I wrote them.
Yeah, she mentioned confirmation bias as well in this webinar.
Yeah.
So it all plays back to the same thing,
Well, and then another thing which is very well studied is the placebo effect, right?
Yeah. So she mentioned that as well, placebo, nocebo.
Yeah. So you believe you're taking something that helps you.
Yeah.
To become healthy and health.
And hey presto, there you go.
There you go. So many medical trials fail because of the placebo effect, because it's so strong.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It's
crazy that that's known, and yet people still
don't want to study it.
Yeah.
Or people study it, but you don't want to use it for your own for your own practical life. If you know that the placebo effect is real and well studied, I would want to extract from that as much as possible and be my own placebo, really.
Yes. Right? That's one of Joe Dispenza's books. You are the placebo.
You are the placebo. And how can you be your own placebo? How does that work?
You have to keep believing in yourself. Honestly, like that's what it comes down to there, right?
You have to, yes, you have to believe what you want to believe. And when I say what you want to believe, is that which aligns with what you want to accomplish and what you desire.
Yeah. So again, coming back to this kind of being truthful with yourself, going within to locate what it is, or not discover, but like reveal what it is that's within you that drives you, that gives you sense of purpose, that you give meaning, and then doing things and speaking to yourself in a way that aligns with that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of it's twofold, right? Like one thing is you have to become aware of what it is that you desire before you can rewrite your narrative. Like, what is it that you want out of life? I want a relationship. I want a job. I want wealth. I want health. I want all of that stuff. So believing that you're not good enough, if that's what you believe, does that align with that end state? If you were in that state, would you be believing that about yourself? No. Well, then there is a mismatch between your belief and your desire. But your belief is going to dictate how you view the world. So you got to rewrite that narrative. And that's where reprogramming your subconscious comes in. The meditation, we spoke about that so much. The meditation, imagination, the feeling that you attach to your meditative realm, the repetition of affirmations. Like if you repeat something over and over and over and over again, at some point, it's going to get into your subconscious. And on the other hand, it's also catch yourself when something happens in your life and you react to it in a way that does not align with your desired end state. So something happens in your life today and you're like, damn shit, things are going wrong again.
And then to slip back into this kind of
you can slip
mode.
Because every time this happens and you're saying that and you're thinking that about yourself, you're thinking that loaded with emotion. Every time you think something loaded with emotion, the subconscious opens its gates and saves it right there. It's going to be part of your code.
Yeah.
And the subconscious determines your beliefs, your thoughts, your emotions, and ultimately your reality. So every time that happens, if you can catch yourself and be like, okay, I see, I'm on autopilot again. Let me spin this. Let me give it a different perspective. You can give it a different perspective. You have to be mindful of it. You can see the outcome in infinite, you can see the event in infinite interpretations. The same thing that's happening, you'll view it differently than me. You view it based on your perception, your interpretation, which is based on your belief system, which strongly stems from your subconscious. Same with me.
What about, so there's our conscious mind, our subconscious mind, subconscious running the show mostly, right?
Yep.
What about the greater conscious?
The superconscious.
That, but I'm also talking about consciousness coming from within us, but also through us, and talking about what does Jung call it? The collective conscious. That's the one I'm talking about, not the superconscious, the collective conscious.
Okay. Would you mind just give me some more context?
Well, what we're talking about now is placing all of the responsibility with us. But does that take anything away from the collective conscious, the consciousness of the planet, the consciousness of the greater community, the consciousness of the people that we surround ourselves with, et cetera, et cetera? What? Let's dig into that area. I'm saying.
I believe that you will see in other people your own frequency. So whatever it is that you see that catches your awareness is the frequency that you operate from. If you operate from a frequency of conscious elevation and love, it's very hard for you to see negativity and jealousy, because you're automatically going to interpret actions from your frequency. Like if you do something that maybe now seems to me as something negative or jealousy, if I am elevating my consciousness to a higher level, I will see within you where you're coming from. So it's hard for me to hate you for that or to label you in that way, right? So I do believe that, I don't know how that relates to the collective consciousness, but I do believe that it's purely your own responsibility to how you feel and to how the world treats you. I think that's on you.
So you don't believe in the collective consciousness, or you do, but you don't believe in it having any effect on.
I don't know exactly how the collective consciousness relates to that, and I don't know enough about it to really say how it relates to the collective consciousness. I know about, is that the idea that there's an infinite intelligence?
I don't know if that's the way that I understand it. I think it's more about the consciousness of other living beings and our access, I suppose, to that as some form of a way that we have consciousness of ourselves. And I could be wrong. I don't know. There's just a kind of question to pose to you. Trying to put you on the spot.
I don't know. I don't know enough. I know about I've read about the superconscious, but not the collective conscious. So B.
It's an interesting area to think about.
Yeah.
Because it's, I mean, everything is the theory at some level, isn't it? We're just kind of figuring things out as we go.
For sure. I think it is, but what I'd like to see is that science is slowly catching up with essentially showing how the spiritual realm holds quantifiable weight. Like all these studies that show that the picture you're painting within based on thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are going to dictate real life outcomes. That's been shown in spiritual text and religious text and these traditional teachings over and over and over again, And for someone who is more scientifically minded naturally, I think it's important to make sense of it based on science and quantifying things, and then use those results to convince yourself to some extent.
Yeah.
To some people, it comes naturally the belief in the transcendental, but for example, for me, studying the placebo effect and realizing that what I believe that I'm taking is actually going to dictate real life outcomes, it was something that blew my mind.
Yeah. It's interesting as well. Something I learned recently was research is now showing that we can't feel two emotions at the same time. So our brain will only process we can't feel anxious and content at the same time. Mm-hmm. So we literally have to make a choice. And you can choose which way that goes. And anxiety is just, pent up worry. It's energy that hasn't been focused in a particular place.
So when you say you can choose that emotion, it essentially means that you become conscious of what otherwise the subconscious would do. So if your subconscious would react in a fearful manner or an angry manner to something, you'll have to become aware of the situation and then give it another perspective in order to feel a different emotion.
Yeah.
So to some extent that comes back to your training of getting a hold of the situation and not being on autopilot and not reacting instinctively, right?
Which again comes down to your ability to be calm then, I suppose, to notice if something's rising in you.
Yes.
Like if you're in a conversation and you sense that you're getting a bit frustrated
right.
or something, then you can just be like, all right, I noticed that's happening.
And the part that's regulating that emotional response, it's your prefrontal cortex, which also makes sense if you think about kids. It's very hard for them to regulate their emotions because their prefrontal cortex is not developing until later on. So they're in this, this fight or flight and this instinctive mode all the time. And what's also interesting is the more you proactively face your fears, for example, through exposure therapy, the more you're down-regulating the amygdala, which is there for your fear response, your instinctive fear response. And the more you use your prefrontal cortex to regulate those emotions, which tells you that for you to get a grip on those situations, you have to train first. And how do you train? You become proactive with the things that you're afraid of, and you work through them. That in itself is going to be muscle that you can use moving forward when something manifests externally in an event in front of you. Rather than acting instinctively, you now have a higher chance of getting a grip on it, spin the perspective on the event, and then choose that emotion that you would want to.
You switch out the emotion then? You're like,
yes.
No, I'll do this one.
What is interesting
is
doing
chest presses on your amygdala.
Yes. Yes. But initially your autopilot response is the fight.
Yeah.
Like the anger, whatever that is, right? But if you're...
That's your lizard brain.
Right. And so I think a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is your subconscious mind is running a program that you don't want it to run. So you're taking it off autopilot, you're unplugging it. You're proactively working on that. You face your fears. You do the meditation. You do the relaxation. You do the emotional imagination, pairing imagination with emotion. That reprograms your subconscious mind. You do that what's physically difficult. You push yourself physically. You become more than what you believed you were before. You try to become more aware of your reactions to situations. And you do this over and over and over again. So what you're doing now is you're rewriting your subconscious code. And at some point you can plug it back into autopilot. Because now it's going to run a program that's going to act in a manner that aligns with your desires. So then your initial reaction to things is not going to be, God damn, this, and that. It's going to be, it's all right. I can see why he's doing that. So you're going to be more peaceful with the situation. So then you don't have to do it consciously at all times anymore. It's because you've worked on it and it's running the right autopilot program. But it requires time and effort in the beginning to do that.
It requires, specifically for me, to not be on my phone as much. One of the things that I notice, certainly with technology, it's awesome, right? It's brilliant that I've got this pocket computer in my pocket, and that I can always be accessing something. I can always be connected. I can listen to music. I've got stimulus going on all the time. I can be listening to something. But I always notice that when I distance myself or unplug from that constant, what's going on?
Yeah.
That then I can always get to a place of more stable calm, because I'm not feeding myself this kind of mental stimulation. Andrew Huberman's dad called the internet mental chewing gum. It's like, it's good, it has some flavor at the beginning, but after a while it loses its flavor and you're just chewing and you're not getting anything from it, and you realize that there's not actually any real substance there. I mean, it's good to delve in, to find out some information, but then you want to actually apply that. You want to actually get into some real conversations. You want to be able to speak to people. You want to be able to. I also get this from purposely leaving my phone in a drawer and going and being, in and about my day, or even going on a walk or something.
Yeah, I like that with the chewing gum, because in the beginning I think the dopamine hit you get is high, and then with each hit it's like when you drink or when you eat bad food. The beginning, like, your taste buds go crazy when the chocolate hits your tongue, right? But then at some point it's like you don't feel it anymore, so you're feeding yourself more to feel that again.
Go on about 4.
Yeah, it's the same with the refresh, right? You do it in the beginning, you see something, but then the hit you're getting is diminishing with each hit that you get.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest issue with that is with Instagram and all these social media apps, it's feeding you something. So it puts you from creator mode to consumer mode.
Good way of putting it.
Yeah, because it comes in and you look at it and you don't have to you don't earn that impression. It's just given to you. Given to you. You consume.
Dude, it makes me think of like the
you don't work for it. It's the same.
The little mice or the rats that are just going over the thing.
That's exactly what it is.
What are we? We're not rats,
think
are
of it.
we?
This is the mental plane. Think of it of the physical plane, right? Evolutionarily, we'd have to work in order to eat. We'd have to go, we'd have to hunt, we'd have to be successful at a hunt to eat. So we didn't just have to go out and hunt, we had to do it well in order to be successful. And then we earned the right to eat. That's why we do it now. We resemble that through fasting, for example, physical hardship, and then we eat, or intermittent fasting, or you do it with cold plunges. Like anything that puts your body in stress, it triggers that primitive response. And I think with the Instagram thing, it's the same thing, because you're not working to get that dopamine release. You're just freaking going like this, and you're refreshing and you're getting essentially...
Talking of refreshing right now. I'm trying to turn this off. It's the alarm going off.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
So, and I think we're creatures of God. We're creators. We're not consumers, man. We have within us the capacity to create the life that we want to create. Everything that we're talking about is literally that. Like, how can you create your own life? And I think if you just feed yourself the whole time with that, you're doing the opposite of that. It's different if you're the creator of that reel. You're creating.
Yeah, this is the puppeteer thing you always talk about. It's
exactly
so true. Like, it's to catch yourself when you're in that realm of like, scrolling, eating, whatever it is.
Yep. So it's to some extent
binging Netflix.
Yeah. At a meta level, it's you're consuming, not creating. But then if you break it down, it comes down to what are you consuming. And a lot of times, I think we're consuming nonsense. It's someone eating freaking cake on camera.
Yeah.
Or some people beating my algorithms, not fighting stuff because they do the boxing stuff, right? People doing that, or people doing some crazy stuff, which literally it has no educational value. It has no spiritual value for you. It's just time passing. It's a small hit.
Yeah.
Like a
it's
hit
just,
of joy until it's not even
it's
that.
a little nibble or something. It's
Exactly.
It's not to say that, like, there's nothing wrong with watching a thing every now and then, but it's to know when you're losing yourself to that, and that you're just consuming for the sake of consuming.
Yep. Don't you tell people that you don't want them to send you reels anymore?
Yes, dude, all the time. Did they continue sending me reels? Yes.
Bro,
I'm like, now you're affecting my algorithm.
It makes me scared to send you a reel, man.
It kills me. But at least what I'm getting from you is like, at least I'm getting like some valuable like information. Some people are sending me, and to be honest, I know, man, it just gets on my nerves. I haven't got, like, if I get a notification and it's a reel, straight away I'm like, oh man,
Do you subconsciously devalue that person or not?
I'm trying not to judge.
You try not to judge. I was talking to my mom about this because she likes to send me stuff. She says, "Boy, do you even listen?" Like this time when I was in Germany, do you even listen to the things that I send you? I'm like, honestly, Mom, rarely.
At least you're honest.
And
to
she's
it.
like, but the stuff that I send you is different to what other people send you.
Yeah,
everyone
I'm your
thinks
mother.
That, right? Well, everyone thinks that. What I send
Yes.
you is special.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
Why does everyone think that? Because everyone that's seeing that, for them, that is something funny or interesting. Doesn't mean that that's for you, man.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I find it interesting.
Yeah.
So when they send that, you're playing a game of Russian roulette. Maybe one out of 10 is interesting, but 9 out of 10 you consume is a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
And also knowing that where you put your attention on is gonna affect your day to day. We know that, man. If I talk to you about orange soda right now, and I give you a whole thing about orange soda, you're gonna go through the day and you're gonna depict orange sodas. I guarantee you that. I remember I wanted to buy a car, a white Lexus. So all I was saying is white Lexus, white Lexus, white Lexus.
You're like, it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere, dude. So if you see that stuff, man, it's gonna affect where your attention goes throughout the day. And if you treat your mind the same way that some people, including myself, treat my diet and my physical health, then I should absolutely not watch that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm so strict at what I eat and the way I work out and fast and the sauna and this and that. And now I put my mental health even above my physical health.
Mm-hmm. Same.
So how can I not care for what I'm consuming every minute of the day? That doesn't mean you can't go on every now and then watch a Netflix episode. There's a time set aside for that. And, the thing is, when someone sends you these things, you don't know what's going on in their mind. You're essentially putting yourself at the frequency for that other person, for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then the thing is, the algorithm spits out the next one. And that it kind of maps with what you just watched. And pop,
Yeah.
and then you're 20 reels in. That's definitely going to affect your day to day.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. There's no way around it. So I kind of like what you did there, my friend, being disagreeable and saying, you don't send me any reels anymore, otherwise I'll block
Yeah,
you.
because you've got to tell them at some point, you've got to say, look,
Tom.
I'm not really into the reels sending, okay? So, I mean,
It's
unless
hard.
it's
But it's hard for them to not send.
yeah, and it
This
does.
one is going to change Mark's opinion, though. If I send him this one reel, he's going to think of
Honestly,
my
the
reel.
amount of times I've said, hey, no, I had to even send a voice note. And maybe they don't like receiving voice notes, but, I had to just be like, hey, I mean, honestly, I've told you before, I'm not into the reels.
Right.
Okay.
Stop
Just,
sending me
I
reels.
like actual communication. Like if you've seen a reel and it's resonated with you in such a way that you feel compelled to tell me about it, then give me the TLDR. Call me or text me what it is from that thing that you want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't just send me the thing. I haven't got the patience to watch it.
Yeah, bro. It's like, you know how they say you're the average of the 5 closest people around you? It doesn't just have to be people. It can just be content.
Yeah.
You're the closest of the average content you consume all the time.
I think as well, when you're talking about being disagreeable, to hold yourself to a standard of like, I'm literally going out there and searching for the things that I consume. Like you're talking about your physical condition.
Mm-hmm.
So you're particular, you're specific about what you put into your body.
Mm-hmm.
Same goes for the stuff that I'm watching.
More important, I think.
Way more important.
If you value your mind as the top thing, your mental health, before everything else, then it's even more important than your physical diet. Your mental diet is number one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other way around, I think the good thing is knowing that you can brainwash yourself or be brainwashed. If you get those 20 reels, you're being brainwashed by whatever that guy or girl is sending you, plus what the algorithm decides to feed you afterwards. You can flip it on its head and you can literally brainwash yourself with the things that you want to align with. You can literally just freaking hammer audiobooks, reading, podcasts, every type of knowledge that you strive to absorb, and every type of character that you strive to become, you can brainwash yourself with that as well.
Yeah. And you're being truthful, like what we were just talking about. If you are honest with yourself and with the people that are sending you the reels or whatever it is, and you say, this is not for me, you also allow them to go, oh, yeah, you know what? Maybe me spending all my time sending Theo Von fucking reels is not.
Even though I like Theo Von.
Me too.
He's good, man.
But like, do you know, whatever the thing is, like it allows them to go, oh, you know what? Maybe I should spend less time on the reels. Maybe I should spend less time on TikTok. Maybe I should spend less time on whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
Because there's more out there.
Well,
there's just more to learn.
Bro, it's convenience. It's way more easy to consume something mindlessly than to absorb something that stimulates your intellect or your spiritual level. Then you have to absorb that and you're going to think about that. I think a lot of people, they don't want to involve in that. It's just easier to freaking watch the reel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then that might also lead to some purchase and next thing.
Yeah, dude, and that's what it is.
Did I do this?
Honestly.
So one thing leads to another, man. Like your mental comes first and then the action realm follows. You think first and then you purchase. With everything, man. Everything that we're doing, it starts in your head first, man. And whatever starts in your head, again, that comes from your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions. So rather than having someone else play those like a piano, you want to make sure you get a hold on those things.
Yeah.
Just be proactive about it. You become the creator. You're not going to be the consumer.
That's a powerful message, man.
I think that's a very it's a message that puts all the responsibility.
But who doesn't want to be the creator of their own existence? Like
the one that values comfort over courage.
Well, you can stay under the sheets then, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. So I think maybe some people haven't reached that level of pain yet where they want to make that shift. So, but some people never do. I know people that they go through life like that. They don't want to accept that level of responsibility. If you think about it, for someone that doesn't live their life like this, they'll say you're crazy. What do you mean I'm responsible for everything in my life? These people were unjust to me. My parents did this. Girlfriend cheated on me. Boyfriend did this. I didn't get the promotion on the job. It's like this. If that boss did this, if he wasn't racist because I'm Persian, then I would have. But they go through life like that, right? So you will always be able to hide behind that veil and to say that, you know what, because of that, it didn't happen. It wasn't me. The moment you...
Maybe Shaggy?
What's that?
It wasn't me.
Yeah, exactly. So the moment you know that, yes, it was you, dude, because you have to accept the responsibility and realize some thought, some belief, some subconscious programming that you have within you made that reality manifest. That moment you can't hide anymore. So you can't hide behind that veil because you are the creator of your life. And that's something that can be frightening to people because it's exposing.
Yeah.
You're naked for some time. But then you can clothe yourself with those layers that you create for yourself, not the things that have been put onto you. And it's I think it's the idea of maximum responsibility. Jordan Peterson always talks about it. You move from victim to creator.
Yeah.
And there's degrees to that. And I think I want to be 0% victim and I want to be 100% responsible for my own life.
That's real manifestation then.
Yeah.
Because then you are creating your own reality.
Yeah.
From the consciousness of being aware of what you're doing as much as you possibly can.
Doesn't that give you power, that realization?
Yeah.
Well, why wouldn't you want to live like that? I mean, the moment you realize that and you feel like you're now in control of your own life, you would never want to. Yeah, it's the best, man. You would never want to give that up anymore. Otherwise, who you are and how you feel is purely dictated based on other people's behavior towards you.
Yeah.
That promotion, okay, I'm happy. That demotion, oh, I'm unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
That partner showed me love, oh, I'm so happy. That partner showed me love, I'm so unhappy.
Well, this is interesting that we use the word happy because we had discussed before the difference between happiness and joy. I actually had a book, the Darren Brown book that was in the previous episode. He wrote a book called Happy. Mm-hmm. And this was also a period where I was going through where I wasn't feeling particularly happy with where I was in my life. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to understand how I could improve my happiness. Well, I realized that I was placing my feelings of happiness on external events. Happiness was dependent on happenings. So I had to get to a point where I realized that I can control the way I react and respond to things. That's what gives me true happiness. And then there's a level above that, which is joy. Joy being the inside job. It's about, circling back, touching base, that these are things that we have within us, like to be grateful for something. That's humbling for me because I went through a long period where I was pointing the finger outwards.
Yep. When you say, being able to get a grip of reality in those events and not being on autopilot, that gave you a lot of happiness, just being in control of that emotional reaction.
Gave me clarity, honestly.
And, it's so interesting because that in itself is moving from the one who things happen to
is victim
to the
victor,
one who creates, right?
Yeah.
Because you're now in charge. So that gave you happiness, being the creator of that situation, or having control over the interpretation of that event gave you happiness. That aligns with, a creator versus a victim mindset.
Taking ownership of it, for sure.
Yeah. And another thing I feel like is how can you truly feel peace, joy, happiness, all of those positive emotions without deeper purpose in life, man? I don't think it works. How long can you involve in these short-term acts of happiness, like the drinking, the going out, the stuff that, we all do here and there, we've been through, but are you really, how's it looking in your private life? Are you in a relationship where you're actually feeling a level of fulfillment? Do you feel like you're growing with that person? Do you think that there's some spiritual and professional development while you're in that relationship? There's some stimulation. Are you admiring certain traits about your partner? Not being with someone that you don't admire to some extent for me is impossible. Why? Because I would like to progress in life on all the planes. So if I don't have at least one trait that I'm looking up to where I'm saying, oh, damn, wow, I wish I would have that, then I wouldn't want to be with that person. Why? Because otherwise I'm with a person that allows me to just stand still because it gives me a level of superiority. If I have nothing to admire about the person, then essentially I have someone where I never have to change myself.
Yeah, you're with an enabler.
Yes.
Exactly.
So I want to be with someone, and I know especially for guys, and I come from a community in Germany where I have a lot of kids that come from immigrant families. And a lot of those guys are kind of like rough guys. Like, we grew up freaking, I'm stronger than you, I'm a better soccer player than you, I get the better chicks, this, and that. It was always competition, right? So they always want to get girls that they have control over. So they want to have a partner where I show you, look, Mark, I'm telling her, jump, and she's going to ask me how high. I'm the guy.
I'm the man. Yeah,
Bro,
it's the alpha.
Yes, the alpha, man. And the thing with that is it's insecurity. If I'm dependent, it goes back to what we spoke about last episode. If I'm dependent on you telling me, dude, you're the guy for her asking you how I should jump, and I feel good about myself, that's because to a certain degree, I don't feel like I am good enough and I am not powerful enough. And my girlfriend, or I need that confirmation, that external confirmation that I'm someone who is in charge. The other way around, like, I want someone, of course, who respects me, but also someone who carries certain abilities that I can learn from that allow me to become better. So one of the things that's very important for me, you have to first of all see where your shortcomings are. So one of the things that was important for me, where I knew I wanted it, but I wasn't really good at it, was care, affection, caring more for other people. Because I'm an only child, man, I was always put on a pedestal with family, with friends, with everything. And it was very hard for me to genuinely be caring for someone else above and beyond myself. So when I was with a girl, it was always something that I admired. Is, dude, look how she's thinking in that situation. She puts another person first. She's so caring. Look how she dissolves the situation. Freaking feminine grace, man. Love that. I want some of that. So I want someone who in that area is better than me. But again, that's because I want to think about life as I live this life to spiritually evolve, to grow. So if I don't have that, I can always have a freaking pet that I can control. It's like, oh, I'm smarter than you. I make more money than you. I'm maybe emotionally better than you. Let me keep someone where this is just a dependent relationship. I can do whatever, and she's gonna be there, and she's gonna do as I say. But that comes from insecurity. I don't want to do that. I see that a lot with guys, and yeah. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, just to close out here, like, ultimately, when you're that way, you've not really fully committed, so you're always going to be kind of looking elsewhere and thinking about other options, and the real relationship that works comes with a level of sacrifice as well. It is the understanding that there is something to learn from everyone, and we are drawn to people that, I mean, like you say, there's something in them that you aspire to, whether that's that they're kind or that they are more thoughtful, or for me, it's been people who are more thoughtful than I am. Again, similarly to you, I'm the youngest child in my family. 2 older sisters, older brother, 10-year gap between me and my youngest sister. I was mollycoddled in my upbringing.
Yeah.
So I know now that that's a pattern that I have that I want to break, or that I'm working on being more thoughtful, more compassionate. I'm very affectionate in a relationship, but I also know that I need to work on my thinking about them and putting them first, so that when I'm out and about, they're on my mind and I'm thinking of them, not just like me. So that comes from a natural growth from, essentially being selfish to some degree, and to move more into being selfless.
Mm-hmm. And you were also in an environment where it was all about you. You came as a DJ. You're younger. You were playing the big clubs. A lot of attention. A lot of access to everything. Right. You're always playing somewhere. People looking up to you. And then your upbringing also resembled that. So it's fairly difficult to come from that and then start saying, "Oh, you know what? Maybe I should be less selfish. I should put other people first," because you've been freaking programmed in a way that worked for you as well. You got to all these levels in your life being like that. So part of you in the subconscious level is why change that if that always worked, right? But then you kind of connect spiritually, and you strive to be more, and you strive to think more, and you strive to grow. And you're like, you're understanding that, when you treat that other person, you're also treating yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you become aware of all the things you could do better.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that's what we're all really here for. It's that level of spiritual evolution.
Well, yeah, it's having our ancestors having gone through the physical hardship to evolve through survival of the fittest, and now it's up to us to go through the mental plane of that, of survival of the most open to progressing our mind and our mental capacity to be able to provide more for more than just ourselves. It's our family, it's then the community, and it's then, it goes out.
Right. It's almost, what's crazy is you almost see around you the traits that people carry that are heroic. So we detect when someone is emotionally stable, when someone is truthful, someone stands their own ground, when someone is genuinely caring, when someone is giving, when someone is kind. It's almost like our attention goes there automatically.
I find it hard to not want to be around those people.
Exactly. And even going from day to day, even when I'm in a grocery store, I somehow detect when someone speaks genuinely nicely to the cashier.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost hard to take your eyes away from it. And I think it's because innately we are here for good. We're here for spiritual evolution. And I think when those values are lived out, they act as almost like a bright star.
A beacon. Yeah.
Aim up, right?
Yeah.
It's a reminder for us to aim up. And we see within them that we know we should be as well, or that which we know we can be.
And it's encouraging as well to see that in action.
Yep.
And that I'm drawn to.
Same.
Like a firefly to a light.
And that's why my relationship, my friendships, even my professional relationships, the people that I work with, they all carry some of those elements with them. How else can I move ahead if I am with people where I don't see these things? Like I wanna grow, I wanna evolve, right? So I want to be around people that shine that brightly all the time. And I just welcome that. It's not. I remember when I was younger, I didn't want to do that because I always wanted to be the one that's above.
You wanted to win.
I wanted to win, man.
Yeah.
It was like, dude, if I'm with someone that's more evolved in that realm, it's gonna make me look a certain way.
Yeah.
Or if I have a friend that is super social and super well connected, it's gonna pose a threat to me because shit, now I'm not the most popular one anymore. The other person is, right? Until you realize that freaking that's the weakest way to live life, man. There's nothing weaker than that. And once I realized that, being honest with myself and admitting that to myself, it was like, no, man, it's the other way around. It's like he is me and I am him. Mm-hmm. He's just a mirror for me to evolve. So rather than having a fixed, I had a growth mindset when it came to that. Because I'm like, what he has is just serving me because it's beautiful. I can become that too. And how do I become that? Well, I surround myself with people that are like that. But the thing is, those people are only going to surround yourself with you if you also have something to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to earn your right to be in those circles.
Mm-hmm.
You have to earn your right to have those friendships. You can't force those.
Yeah.
You know? And so you have to put in the work. You have to be introspective. And people will see that. And you're going to be rewarded with the right circle of people once you do that. You can only be with the frequency that you're living out. That's going to speak before you.
Banger. For me and my brother are one.
That's exactly right, bro.
Well, man.
Brother boy.
Brother boy.
All right, man. Pleasure speaking with you.
Always, brother.
Yes, sir.